Welcome to episode number 9 of the Castbar. 6.1 patch notes have dropped and are going live onto the PTR. Looks like we're finally going to get to see a little bit of what Blizzard has been working on. We have brought in a couple special guests to discuss with us a rising Warcraft sub on Reddit. Finally, we give you our thoughts on the first section of the legendary questline. Thank you, and enjoy. Welcome to the Castbar, the World of Warcraft podcast channeling your content with no interrupts. Today with me I have Evan.
Good to see you, man.
We do not have Florian today. He called in sick. Hopefully he is getting some medicine and getting some rest right now. As I said in the intro, though, we do have a couple special guests with me. Today I bring you Dan.
What's up, guys?
And Lucosis.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going great. We're going to be interviewing you guys a little bit later, and you are more than welcome to join in all of our conversation throughout the entire show. As a quick little heads up to our listeners, Dan and Lucosis. Dan is the creator of a Reddit subreddit that is known as CompetitveWoW. Our CompetitveWoW. We'll be discussing that with him a little bit later, and Lucosis is, from what I'm understanding, like his right-hand man when it comes to his moderators. Is that correct, Dan?
What? Yep.
All right. So what have you guys been doing this week?
I have been actually finished leveling my hunter to level 100, so trying to get through gearing up him and get into high mall.
Is that an alt or is that your first 100?
It's my third 100. My main is a protection warrior.
Are you already raiding on him?
A little bit. My guild just started last week. We got 3 or 4 fights down in normal. We haven't really been doing much since the holidays. Kind of disrupted the schedule.
That happens a lot. And how about you, Evan? What have you been up to?
Oh, we had another good high mall run on Friday. Did 6 out of 7 bosses a game. Went and tried heroic target, and he was laying down the heat. So maybe next week when we have a different composition, we'll be able to get him down.
Is there something particular you're running into? He's fairly easy.
Well, I think, at the end of a long raid, people trying something new. We just weren't on our A game. Plus, I only have about 5 or 6 guild members who are consistently raiding with me, so it's kind of up to the pug as well. Sometimes we get better pugs, sometimes we don't get so great on the pugs. So I think it was just a matter of our extras not pulling their weight.
That is the risk. And how about you, Dan? Anything special going on this week?
Man, I'm just enjoying a little bit of WOD. I haven't played in quite a while due to school and other stuff, and no, I've just been having absolute tremendous amounts of fun with the game. But so far, I've been enjoying it. So far, I've been okay. My guild took me on a nice normal run where I got pretty much most of the gear because I was the only leather agility player. It's been quite a nice ride. Definitely got carried, but I enjoy it. Yeah, it would be nice to come back to proper raiding, but unfortunately the time isn't now.
That's good to hear. I remember doing something very similar to getting all the gear in Mists of Pandaria. I was playing an elemental shaman, and the only people that because at the time, we didn't have this beautiful thing here of where gear has, multiple stats on it. It has agi and int. So all of the int mail could only be used by shamans. That was the only class that wanted mail with intelligence on it. So if I created a pug, I would just not get any shamans because there's not many of them. So I would just fill my entire raid with that I'm pugging or anything with anything but shamans, so that any gear that dropped, all mine. Unfortunately, that's not as much of a strategy anymore.
You're disgusting.
Yeah, I'm a hunter gear, so everything is hunter gear once again.
At least you're not taking my swords anymore. Alright, we're going to go into the news. Welcome to the news, everybody. We're back from the holidays. Well, we're not. I guess the world is. And that includes Blizzard, as holidays are over and they graced us with the 6.1 PTR patch notes. I believe these go live on, not live, they go onto the PTR on Tuesday. So you'll actually, if you have the access to the PTR and have signed up and all that, you'll actually be able to go in there and test this out. We're not going to go over everything with patch notes. There's just too much to go over. It's not worth our time nor your time because, I mean, it would end up to us just reading off of a list, which is not entertaining for anybody involved. So we've picked out a few of the more interesting points on here, and that's what we'll actually be discussing. The first of which, thanks to Evan and his predictions in the past about Twitter going into WoW, and they confirmed that. Well, it looks like that's actually going to be coming a lot sooner than I thought, at least. The Twitter integration is actually going to be tested on the PTR, and then it'll go live as soon as 6.1 goes live. I didn't expect for this to come into effect this soon. It was announced and implemented much more quickly than is normal for Blizzard fashion. Do you guys have any thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, they've just given us a little bit more detail, but not very much more detail than when they were originally hinting on it about a month ago. I'd still like to see how it's going to be implemented. They said now that they're going to provide a quick link every time you get an achievement, post this to Twitter with some kind of default text, and then again with the screenshots. But I don't know how it's going to be logging into the thing, if you can read your tweet feed while you're in game, that kind of thing.
Well, yeah. I imagine that this will, in some way, replace broadcasts, because broadcasts you can do through your Battle.net, and they feel very awkward to me, especially whenever I receive them, because they're not very widely used. So I think they might still keep broadcasts, obviously, but I think that this will really just replace it in some way, because I think this is, like, broadcasts were almost supposed to be what this is going to be for the game now, because it was almost like an in-game Twitter type thing that nobody used.
Right. I think what I'm going to be using broadcast for in the future, because I've just kind of run into this problem where every week we're pugging with new people, and a lot of people don't have a consistent raid group, and they want to come next time, so I add their battle tag friend. I would be able to use my broadcast on, like, say, Friday afternoon, saying, hey, we're running tonight at 7, be around. And or if I'm looking for somebody off my friends list, a resto druid or something, I can broadcast that during the raid, and it'll just ping on everybody's screen. But if it gave me a kind of history of everything I've ever broadcasted, like on my Twitter account, gives me a history of all my tweets, that'd be kind of boring to read. Looking for a 2-member Highmaul, looking for a healer, need tank, please Centel, that kind of thing.
Well, that's why you just look at whatever is most recent.
Right.
What about you guys? Do you guys, Dan, Lucosis, do you guys use Twitter at all?
I'm somewhat active on Twitter. I actually was in one of the first groups that killed Pound Fist and Gorgoron for the mount.
Fun times.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun and a pretty interesting situation where I was on Mal'Ganis trying to camp for it for about 6 hours, and then went back to my home server of Cenarian Circle and zoned in with him on top of me. So there were like 5 or 6 people on my tiny little server, and we killed him. And I had to get a picture to the official thread that was going of confirmations of kills. And it took me 5 minutes to take a screenshot, upload it to Imgur, and then send it on to the forums to him. And then he wanted me to submit it to Twitter and all this stuff. So I would love to have Twitter integration so I could just hit a button and tweet my screenshot.
I mean, as long as it doesn't get in the way of people, as long as it's like a disable feature, I don't think it like takes away anything from the game. It just helps people who wish to promote themselves, or not kind of promote themselves, but be able to, share their shit quickly. But I mean, we'll see how it works out. It shouldn't be a feature that takes away from the game, but rather just adds to it.
Well, my main concern about this, is if let's say Dan, Lucosis, and Evan, let's say you guys are all playing and you're all doing different stuff, and then you can end up following a lot of people on Twitter. I can't keep up with everyone that I follow on Twitter because it would take so much time just to scroll and read everybody's everything. This is why I'm never on Facebook. But if I follow a lot of people and they're constantly tweeting things about whatever it is that they're doing in Warcraft, well, I already have a fairly large monitor. I have like a 24-inch monitor, But, I have, the mini map and my bars, and I have two chat boxes, and then I have this menu up here, and my damage meters, and then my quest logs, and, then, space to see my character and my abilities and the map around me. If this starts popping up on my screen, depending on where it's popping up at, I mean, I have a large monitor, and I can see how this is, my UI is as clean as I can get it, but if this is another thing that's going to be popping up on my screen, if my screen was any smaller, there would just be no room. Especially if this is a consistent thing that, if you only have one or two people you follow, then, you only get to see it maybe every hour or whatever. But if there's a large group that I'm associated with, this could just be a constant scrolling feature on the side of my screen, which takes up even more room. And I know some people don't have my big widescreen monitors.
Right.
Well, have they shown, like, screenshots of them using, like, showing tweets up on your screen, or just asking if you want to tweet?
I haven't seen any pictures yet at all, and that's why I asked. I haven't been able to even find any pictures or anything like that whatsoever.
I think they're going to take the way of simply kind of not particularly integrating it, but maybe what's the word? Yeah, just having the ability to have Twitter integrated. But I'm not sure it's gonna. I think there will be add-ons that come out that are more social and for people who do want to keep up with the Twitter sort of stuff. But I don't think it's necessarily going to be much of an issue in terms of the screen being clogged up. Although I hope that doesn't become a problem, because I hope it's a turn off switch feature, because. I want to, if I do want to post something on Twitter, that's great, but most of the time, Twitter, I mean, it's going to be great for people who just want to take the quickest screenshot possible of their new, as you said, the mount kill and whatnot, and, it'll be, not a fantastic feature, but it'll be something really cool, in my opinion.
Okay, well, it really is just something that we'll just have to see how it goes. I mean, I really am worried that I'm just going to have this scrolling bar on the side of my screen when I'm done with this.
I feel like it'll probably be more of an outbound system than inbound. Like, you'll be able to send tweets out easily, but it's not really going to be a timeline on the side of your screen.
Right, I don't think so either. I mean, it can't be any more invasive than the notifications when your followers complete a garrison mission.
Oh, Jesus Christ, man. Oh, Jesus Christ.
It's cool. I don't need to use that part of my screen, all the time.
Yeah.
That was one of the nice things about I use LVUI, so I'm able to move where all those notifications show up at. I have them stuck in the corner.
That's good.
Oh, man, I just play and get rid of them. That's what I do.
Get rid of your followers or the missions?
Both.
Yeah, I burn my garrison to the ground. I can't take it anymore.
The next note on the patch notes is something that may or may not make people cringe, is that they're bringing daily quests back, but not in the capacity that we had in Mists of Pandaria, where everything almost was centered around them. There's going to be a new questing hub that's going to be centered around the Iron Docks, and it's going to be the next step of story progression for what isn't the legendary quest line, and it's going to be a daily hub. And they're also adding daily quests to your garrison, and you'll have a random one each day, and you can go to your other friends' garrisons to get the other quests.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
It's a little bit of a cooperative, integration of the garrison system.
I think that's what they're aiming for, is that you have to work together if you want to do more of the quests.
I played WildStar for a long time and loved the housing that they implemented in that. But one major problem that I have with WoW's implementation is that it's not easy to go visit someone else's garrison. Like, you have to have them invite you and then right-click your UI and go through another loading screen.
I don't think it's very hard at all. As a rule, me and my friends do the garrison invasion every week after our raid, and honestly, I think it's pretty simple, I don't think the loading screen takes all that long, if that's the longest part of it, and just having them be the group leader. That's it.
On a slight side note, have you gotten anything from your garrison invasion?
Yeah. Oh, man, story time. I've done this every week. My friend's a big collector of mounts, so we do our best to get the epic bags every time. I think there are 3 or 4 mounts 4 mounts, I believe they can drop. I opened my purple bag this week, got 2 of them.
Rude.
Oh, man.
Well, you'll be happy to know then that as part of 6.1, there's going to be a new level to Garrison Invasions, and you're going to be able to get all the way up to Platinum on your success level. So I don't know if I haven't seen if that's going to add a new bag, but I mean, you will have another tier to get to that can possibly mean more rewards. Something that I was excited to see is that 6.1, we're getting our heirlooms back. So if you don't have all of your little newbie heirlooms, then you'll be able to buy those now. And in addition,
hey man, what do you mean? What do you mean newbie heirlooms, man? It's take it easy on us casuals, yeah.
I was morely implying that if you are leveling a level 20 hunter, that level 20 is considered a noob. He is new to the game, even if you're not.
Oh, you're talking about the NEWB, I see, man. You have to get... See, I get offended easily with these things.
I think the heirloom system is finally coming into its kind of golden age here. I think this is always how it should have been implemented from the beginning, where I think you have a tab here, you can buy the original piece, the plate helm or whatever, and you can upgrade it, I think, 2 or 3 times.
Well, you're able to
through
upgrade
the
it
same interface
all the way to level 100 now, which is really awesome, because normally you are only able to, we'd only be able to upgrade them to whatever the highest level of the last expansion was. They're going to let us use them all the way up to level 100 now, which is very awesome.
Absolutely. I'm wondering, there are heirloom rings that you get from the fishing daily quest. I don't imagine those are going to be integrated to the system with an easy purchase button. I'm sure those are still going to be hard to obtain.
Oh, they're not necessarily hard to obtain. You just need to have some fishing stuff and have a couple friends.
See, the second part is where we struggle, you know.
Exactly.
That's what pre-made finder is for. What are you talking about?
From what I'm able to understand, the ring only gives you a little bit of haste and 5% experience, so it's never been worth my time to go get, especially with how much I despise fishing. But for those of you who are curious, the best way to get the ring is to be there fishing and fish until you get the game-winning fish or whatever it's called, and then just have a couple friends, one of which is a warlock, summon you back to Booty Bay to turn in the fish. That's the fastest way and the safest way to do it. It's still a little bit luck-based on who catches the fish, but that gives you the highest success rate for actually turning it in and getting the ring.
And for those who don't know, he's talking about the Sunday weekly fishing tournament in Stranglethorn Vale.
Which I have never done, and probably will never do.
And proud.
Also coming in 6.1, we are getting a new Dark Moon Fair minigame, and I was surprised to see a new Dark Moon Fair minigame because we just got the fly through the fire rings for the flaming wings that we got in Warlords.
Right.
It's going to be a racing minigame.
Very interesting. Do you guys do a Dark Moon Fair, all that stuff? Have you killed the wolf guy? Anything?
I think I've only stumbled across the wolf, the den mother or whatever, once, and actually been able to kill it. I did get the flaming wings on the first day they were out, and that was a lot of fun.
That wolf, by the way, super rude. Well, it drops a mount, and it's really cool because it's this big white wolf with the mark of a loon that floats above its head and it's all glowy, but it only lasts for 2 weeks or whatever. You don't actually get to keep it. Which was really just... It made me grumpy.
Yeah, I was under the impression that it was a permanent mount, too.
And I don't understand why it's not. The pet's permanent, and so is the pet from the Dark Moon Rabbit, which sells for way too much money. Why can't I have the mount for a permanent period of time?
Well, it drops for everybody who kills the boss, right? And Dark Moon Fair is every 2 weeks, or...
No,
it doesn't.
No, it's actually the lowest % chance to drop. It's lower chance to drop than the pet is.
Oh, no.
And you don't get to keep it for whatever reason.
Huh. Maybe that's something they'll revisit in the future. I mean, yeah, I haven't really dug into the Dark Moon Fair and all of its wonders, but that doesn't seem too like Blizzard to do.
It just... Like I said, grumpy. So if you are a Dark Moon fair goer, you will have a new mini game to do, which also means that you're able to get more Dark Moon tickets each week, which is beneficial to people who are trying to grind out transmog gear or using that to get their heirlooms or whatever it is that you. There's a couple mounts and a couple pets and stuff, all that require the Dark Moon tickets. So that gives you another option for actually getting, I think, one more per week or however many you're able to get. 10. I don't know. I didn't look at the exact numbers for each mini game. I don't do the Dark Moon Fair much. One of the more bigger points is that they're working on a large number of garrison improvements, such as items that will allow you, that will instantly give you another mission. It didn't say what type of mission, just says instantly gives you a mission, as well as ability to instantly complete a garrison mission. We'll start with those. Have you guys ever felt like you just needed a mission done right now?
I got my first Time All raid loot mission a couple days before, or it wasn't a couple days, a couple hours before our first raid group, and I was like, man, it would be great to have that item right before we start raiding. Mm-hmm. And that's really the only time that I've just been like, I have to have that item now.
And if you... We've talked about this before, that you shouldn't do what some of us have done and a lot of people have done of wake up, check your missions, go to work, at lunch, check your missions, get off work, check your missions every hour and keep sending them out, because that's how you end up running out of missions. But I've been doing my missions a lot more passively now, especially because the higher level ones are a much longer duration. I haven't felt like I've needed something that'll just outright give me a mission. Especially if it's random. Like, I mean, maybe if it was like, guarantees me a treasure hunter mission or something to where I know it's going to give me gold. But I mean, if I use this and it just gives me a mission that's going to give me 1,200 experience for all of my epic followers, I'm just going to roll my eyes at it.
Right.
I feel like that may be a Blizzard stopgap fix to all the people complaining about running out of missions.
Maybe, and I'm thinking that these will be available via garrison resources, maybe. If I want to have to get a bunch of the items to complete the missions quickly, I'll sacrifice the garrison resources to speed those up. Or if I run out of missions, sacrifice the garrison resources to buy some more, that kind of thing. Or what do you guys think? Gold purchase system or random loot drop from salvage crates? Or how do you guys feel like this will be implemented?
It wasn't said in any way of how you'd acquire any of the things that we're about to talk about, just that they're coming into play. I imagine that the thing that they didn't mention that I wish they would have mentioned was the ability to share garrison resources across your alts, because that's the biggest block for trying to easily level up alts is the garrison resource barrier. But that being said, at the same time, I have so many garrison resources on my main. Especially because I got a few scavengers, and it's like, oh, well, this mission's going to give me 1,000 resources. So, if it was purchased with garrison resources, it would give me something else to do with them.
Yeah, true. I mean, I spend all my garrison resources because I have a bunch of scavengers, too, and kind of pile them up. I spend all those on two loot seals every week, and that's been pretty sustainable.
Yeah, I couldn't see another real... I mean, unless it's just like a random thing you can get from something. But I think garrison resource is really the only way that I could see these being available via. Unless you get them via missions.
Yeah, I know. Like the retraining certificate, it might be a reward from a rare mission too.
Well, that's another thing, is that there's going to be another way to retrain your followers, is that there's smaller items, again, that we don't know how you acquire, that will either retrain a single ability. I imagine it's a random one of the character's abilities, or it'll reroll a single one of their traits. Again, there's an individual item for each of those, but I would assume that we will acquire these probably roughly the same way. Another option that these might come from is the daily quests and iron docks that we are already discussing.
Mm-hmm. Now, before I move on too far away from that point, I wanted to just share that the very first thought I had when I was hearing about the iron docks being a questing hub is that it brings us back to our conversation we had when we reviewed the Iron Grimrail, the Grimrail Depot dungeon, right. And we were saying this is a little bit flat. I don't really understand the lore relevance. We don't get introduced to the train while we're questing around at Gorgorond. And I'm thinking that maybe Blizzard toyed around with the idea of releasing Grimmail Depot and Iron Docks as a content patch with 9.1, along with all this new story points that they're introducing right now, but decided against it. And we're going to see those dungeons become relevant with this new quest hub.
That could be very possible. I think they might. That seems like an accurate assumption. And they probably just put them in because there already wasn't very many dungeons.
Right.
And I think you also have to wonder, how would they handle challenge modes if they were to add new 5-mans in each expansion pack? Would those be rolled into whatever challenge mode meta achievement they have, or...
That's a fantastic point.
That's exactly right.
But we will see what we actually get out of those daily quests. I hope it's good. I mean, as long as they don't try and overwhelm us with daily quests like they did in Pandaria, I think it'll be perfectly fine. I didn't mind doing daily quests in Wrath, but the level of which they put them in Pandaria was just way too extreme.
I think they know they're walking on eggshells with that one topic.
They've been walking on eggshells with a lot of things, but Blizzard just kind of floats on their own cloud, so they don't really have to worry about cracking anything. Another point coming in is there's also going to be an item along the same thing that'll help you complete work orders quicker. So you can put rush orders on your work orders.
That's good, and this isn't something I don't imagine is going to be available for some kind of currency, because if you can just buy up a lot of these, that kind of removes the time gate on completing some of these craftable items, unless they want to purposefully remove the time gate for the purposes of leveling alts and things like that. I guess it could be either, you know. I don't know how much Blizzard holds this time gate to that crafted gear is really important to the game.
I think that because the crafted gear is becoming less and less relevant. I mean, LFR gives 640, BlackRock LFR is going to give higher than 640, so the gear is going to be becoming less and less relevant. So I think the time gate was really just for the beginning. So if you are able to just purchase these rush orders, it won't be as big of a deal because the market for these is already coming down and settling out, especially as more and more people are getting their garrison set up, getting these things built, getting everything flowing in a pattern where they're constantly cranking out these items. And so they're much more readily available. I mean, the jewel crafting ones are down to like 2-3K a piece now, which is like chump change. So, I mean, I think if you are able to purchase these with like garrison resources or even gold, it won't really be a big deal because the only thing you're able to rush are these 640 items, and that doesn't really affect anything anymore because we're getting to the point where better gear is already going to be available.
Well, you're also rushing the daily cooldowns that make the upgrade tokens, so it's upgrading them to 655, I think, is the cap on the craftable items.
It depends. It depends on
a lot
the
of fluctuation
profession.
in the market too.
But those still require savage bloods. So,
I mean, yeah, you'll be able to rush the work orders at the barn.
Do the elite? My barn still isn't level 3 yet. Do the elite work orders always give a savage blood?
There's about 30% chance per work order, I believe.
Okay, so even then, I mean, you would still be paying for a chance at increasing the rate of savage bloods you're getting, but I mean, at some point, if it is through garrison resources, you're going to run out if you're just cranking these.
Exactly.
I mean, so you could get a short boost, but I mean, it's probably not going to be something you can sustain.
Which I'm pretty happy if they do end up taking all of these items down the garrison resource route, because there are just too many ways to get resources. And I feel like they, after seeing how many resources people are getting when they're running scavenger followers, they need to put some kind of a dump in the game for them.
Mm-hmm. Well, because, like, the closest thing to a dump we have is the seals of Tempered Fate. But even then, like, that's once a week that you're dumping, like, what, 1,200?
Yeah, and I get about 1,200 a day if I actually sit down and make my scavengers do their job.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, I get at least, 900 for one mission, and then add that on top of the like 250 a day you get from the cash, and that's only 2 sources in one day, so it just keeps adding up very quickly.
So maybe they are looking for more garrison resource sinks so that we stop complaining about wanting them linked between accounts. I don't think they'll end up doing that.
I wonder if they'll end up making these items. Go ahead.
Yeah, you go for it. I'm not a fan. This is so classic.
I'll go first. I wonder if they'll end up making these items bind to account instead of making garrisons themselves somehow account-wide.
Well, I really don't want my garrison to be account-wide, and the people who are calling for that, I do not agree with it anyway, because then I only get 3 profession buildings.
I don't know that those people have thought through the implications of that on the system, because garrisons are so tied to the questing experience through a lot of the zones that it just wouldn't work with how they've designed the system.
Right. The only thing that I've really seen the stronger call out for is for like a way to transfer garrison resources, because they are the real shortage when you are leveling up, is that you are really hurting for garrison resources, especially for that move from moving everything from tier 2 to tier 3, including the level of the garrison itself, to moving your large buildings to level 2 to level 3, which takes 1,200 resources. That's the real wall that I see for people, is that there's so many resources that you need for just that step up, and then after that, nothing asks for resources anymore, and then you start swimming in them.
But that's kind of what you want to do. You want to build up your own, like, if you take it as more of an role playing game, you have to think of it as building your own base kind of thing, and then slowly making that happen in terms of building it up and making it great and all that crap, and making it become the thing that you really want it to become. So in leveling, it's annoying for alts. But I think it's a great experience. That's why I think, binding to account is a great idea, because the main people that it helps is, in terms of experience, is the scrubs, if you want to call them that. The noobs, the guys that are first time leveling to 100, is a great experience. But I do agree. But at the same time, you imagine the economy creep if the garrison resources were transferable and easy to obtain for everyone, because it would just be crazy.
Well, it's already getting to that point with the things that come from your garrison. But the thing that I was seeing in this is that my thought just completely left my brain in its entirety. I had words, and they just decided to fly out the window. Well, that thought's completely gone, so I just will completely drop that point and move along to the next thing. Wow. All right. So the next point in what's coming to garrisons is apparently you're going to be able to summon 10 to 40 man bosses that are going to attack your garrison, which that's going to be interesting. Are they going to be really powerful? Because are your NPCs and your garrison going to help you, like, during invasions? Or are they just all going to run in terror because, giant grass monster number 369 is attacking?
Or it could be just another way to farm, like, mounts. Like, you could summon... Well, it depends if it's a random summon or not.
If you get to choose, you mean?
Yeah, whether you get to choose the boss. If you get to choose the boss, it could be just another way of saying, we don't want people flying to Outlands and flying to to farm the Phoenix and whatnot, and they could take it either way. If they take it to random, you could end up with a Black Rock Foundry boss on Mythic for some reason in your garrison, but I don't know how they'll work out. So I'm guessing it's not going to be random.
Yeah, it says that you can now summon 10 to 40 player bosses in your garrison, and that makes it seem more like... I mean, they listed this right after your garrison's getting a jukebox, so I don't know if this is like a kind of flavor thing where you'd be like, oh yeah, look at me, I'm fighting Yogg-Saron or whatever, or if you can literally summon Yogg-Saron to attack your garrison and then drop Remoran's head, and save you all the trouble clearing Ulduar.
Yeah, it could be just like a vanity kind of thing where you just like chilling the fuck out.
Like a hollow suite.
Sorry for the swearing, by the way. I just completely lost myself.
It's all right.
The kind of thing that I think they're hoping for us to, it's literally just going to be, let's just have this Ragnaros in the middle of your of your base, but I don't think it's going to do much. At least I'm hoping it's not going to be. It's going to be more vanity rather than just summon a random boss.
Well, I'm wondering too if it'll be kind of an expansion on the invasion system where it scales from 10 to 40 person and you're fighting this boss that's invading your garrison for whatever loot or whatever you can get from him.
Right.
He wants back your scales of doom, you bastards.
Clearly, you're not going to be able to summon Arthas to your garrison and have them try to make that make sense and provide realistic rewards like, oh, he's going to drop a level 640 weapon or something like that. It doesn't make any sense. That would be ludicrous.
It would be fun, though.
It could be kind of thing that they're coming back to take your revenge because all the bad guys are suddenly coming back. But it depends. It depends where they want to take the story further in terms of the storyline. But
Infinite Dragonflight, it explains everything. Just Infinite Dragonflight. They don't like what we're doing, so they're just opening the doorway, and Arthas walks through, and he's like, "Sure, you Frostmourne hungers." And then he drops an invincible, and everyone celebrates.
If you never know how to explain something in WoW, it's usually the bronze or the infinite.
Pretty much.
It's the ultimate get out of jail free card.
Or alternate timeline, man. That always works as well. That seems to be their favorite element.
We haven't killed Arthas in this timeline yet. You're right.
Well, Arthas is still technically by where the timeline is in years of this alternate dimension, he would still technically be a paladin good guy right now.
I suppose. Yeah, because of Gul'dan.
Could you imagine that if we just stopped everyone? We just stopped Arthas becoming bad? That doesn't really make sense. But that's the kind of thing that Blizzard would do.
Well, and like I said before, that would be incredibly fun, which means that Blizzard won't do it.
Hey, sure.
That'd be a little weird.
You have a point there.
Next expansion is going to be Warlords of Icecrown. We're just going to go and redo Wrath of the Lich King in a different timeline.
Got to keep those nostalgia points going. The final thing that I really wanted to touch on, which is exciting for some people, less for others, is that there's two achievements in the game right now that are called Raiding with Leashes, which wants you to go do old content and farm a bunch of battle pets from bosses. And if you get them all, then you get another pet from them. And they're putting in a new one. It's Raiding with Leashes 3. And they're putting in about 12 new pets, which are going to be available across Black Temple, Battle for Mount Hyjal, and Sunwell, which currently have no pets in any of them, by the way. None of these dungeons have pets from any of the bosses. So these are all going to be new pets attached to new bosses, and they're encouraging you to go run their old raids to go get these pets if you're interested in them, and there's new achievement linked to them. This is really awesome. For me at least, I run old content very, very frequently, whether it's for hunting down legendaries or trying to get transmog gear or just for some quick gold because there's a lot of gold to be had in those areas. This really is a new encouragement for people that have already... I mean, some people might go, oh god, I don't want to go in there again, but it is still a new reason to go into these old areas. Do you guys farm old content at all?
Yeah, I find myself in Black Temple almost every week trying to finish my Warglaives, so this is just icing on the cake for me. I have the offhand, of course.
I have the main hand. Together we can be Illidan.
But I think anytime they add stuff like this, it doesn't seem like it's a huge commitment from their end, but it adds something for players to do in the game, and I don't think you can ever really be opposed to that.
It gives me a reason to run through these things additional times, which gives me additional play time, which keeps me in the game longer, which means I give Blizzard more money, which means it was a success for them.
Exactly.
That's the plan. Give everyone something to do.
And Dan, do you run old content much?
I mean, it's not a tough question. I do run it when I do have time, and it's a filler content for me more than anything because I do prefer the end game of stuff, and I even though I'm not super experienced due to mostly lack of time, but also due to my skill. No, I do. I run some stuff. I run the Casa raids for gold. That's currently like the flavor of the month. But otherwise, just a little bit of this and that, but not. I wouldn't say I run it all the time. No, not at all.
That's fair. Yeah, I'm with Lucosis, in which I pretty much always run Black Temple on my rogue every week to get Warglaives, along with Molten Core, trying to get the other Bindings of the Windseeker that I need from Gar. I run Sunwell every week on my Hunter, trying to get Thoradal from Kill Jaden. Just legendaries. I think I've gotten most of the transmog I want at this point. But this is... I don't really do much with battle pets, mostly because I haven't taken the time to level any to level 25 yet, which after you have the level 25s makes everything much easier, but it's that first steps up there that are the hardest. So I just kind of collect them at the time. I don't play them a whole lot, even though a lot of things that you can get through them are very awesome. But it is nice to see that Blizzard is doing something to breathe more life into their old raids. I didn't expect this.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping against hope that we'd end up getting a scaling system that would make the content feel more difficult. Because I would love to go back through Old War with a 10-man group and just blow through there like the old days.
Well, that is something that I have discussed at length, not necessarily on recording, and the Blizzard has said that they have the technology to do it and all this kind of different stuff. The biggest problem with that is, what are they going to give you? They can't give you current level gear because it's too hard to balance, and it means that people will just always run whatever's easiest to get the gear so that they can continue on and make everything else easier, because that's just the way things work. So, and they don't... If it's purely for challenge, I mean, that doesn't always work. I mean, challenge modes have a lot of popularity, but they're still only ran by a very, very small percentage of the community. So, I mean, the problem that they've ran into is, what is the reward for doing these?
I'll tell you.
Could always give us garrison resources.
Oh, God.
No, here's what they ought to do. They should make a vendor that sells every piece of gear that a dungeon or a raid drops, and then if you do it at level with the scaled up difficulty, the bosses will give you tokens, and you can spend your tokens on the transmog gear that you've been going after forever and haven't been able to drop due to the random number generator. And if you save up enough tokens, maybe like 100 runs, or with the increased difficulty, maybe just like 20 or 25 runs, buy Invincible Upright or Mimiron's Head.
That is the exact idea that I had thought of as well, of that doing it at higher level will give you some form of currency. But your idea is very interesting in that you get something that's out of the dungeon. Mine was create, not only use old stuff, but also use new stuff. So, like, for instance, like, each boss will drop you, one eternity token or eternity coin or whatever you want to call it. And then there's a vendor, like you said, that'll sell things, but it could also sell things like, if each boss gives you one, and you can, all of these raids have the scaling, you could easily get like 100 a week if you were really dedicated. And, if for like 15,000 coins, you could buy, like the Zul'Gurub Tiger, the orange one, or just, buy things that aren't in the game anymore, or even new things, anything like that.
Well, it's up to them whether or not they'd want to reintroduce. Have they already said they're going to reintroduce the Zul'Gurub Tiger? I believe they have.
It hasn't been
troll
confirmed.
raids.
Right. Yeah, that's one of the most frustrating things about running old content. And, I mean, I'll tell you, the least pleased I've ever been with Blizzard was during Mists of Pandaria, when I was trying to discover the pattern for my leather pants, my 553 pants, by crafting the Hard and Magnificent Hide every day on a daily cooldown, discovering PvP gear after PvP gear. There are like 30 pieces of PvP gear I could learn with that recipe. There's only 4, leather items I can learn with the recipe. The random number generator really is punishing, especially if you're a dedicated player and you wake up every day just to do the daily thing, or go every week to Ulduar just to try to get that mount. I mean, it's disheartening, and if they give some way for us to slow and steady eventually get it without relying so much on luck, then I think you could still put in the work to get the rewards, so it wouldn't cheapen it for people who have stuck with it, but it would be a little bit more rewarding and satisfying.
The only barrier I see after that, because like all of that is fantastic, the only barrier I see after that is how do you continuously make it scale? Because like if you scale it to, for instance, to what we have right now, so you scale it to, in assuming that people have normal or mythic high mall gear, as soon as people get normal and mythic blackrock gear or whatever after that, those raids become immensely easier again, and then this just becomes 2 or 3 people farming quote unquote old content instead of it being current. So they would have to probably tweak their system to scale with like the average eye level of the group.
I think it would probably be like how challenge modes scale you down to 630. It would just scale you down to 220 for Old War, or whatever eye level it is relevant for it.
Well, the thing that they've ran into an issue with that is that some classes are extremely gear dependent. Shadow Priests and Boomkins. I mean, like Shadow Priests, that was the problem they had, especially with challenge modes and proving grounds, is that they needed, their like 40% haste to be effective in Pandaria. They'd go in and they'd get nerfed down to, I don't even remember what the item level for Heroic was anymore.
Like 435.
And something like that, 460. I don't know.
Yeah,
and
463. That's right. I don't know.
They would get nerfed down to that level, and their haste would go from 40% down to like 6%, so none of their damage worked anymore.
Right, and the way they fix that is that they, in this expansion, I believe, started scaling the dungeon up to your gear level.
I don't know. I haven't done the challenge modes this expansion. But now that we're completely off tangent in all ways, let's go into the closer look. Welcome to A Closer Look. A Closer Look is a small section that we do where we take a closer look at something that's inside the game or the universe and the community around us. It's not necessarily always news. It can be a feature or just whatever it is that we want to really just zoom in and pick apart. And this week we have Dan and Lucosis with us for A Closer Look, and it's because we're going to be interviewing them on a new WoW-centered subreddit that Dan has created that is called CompetitveWoW, r/CompetitveWoW. And so I'll just go ahead and let Dan take it away if you want to just explain to us just a little bit of what your what the aim and the goal is of CompetitveWoW.
Well, the aim and the goal was to create a subreddit where, and I'm not to bash on WoW, they do a great job over there, but what they're centered on is mainly non-competitive stuff, so funny jokes, images, etc., etc. And what we wanted to create was an alternative for people who did want to focus on more competitive side of the game to foster some discussion. And that's why we set out some rules and invited people to first of all have qualified players who do know what they're talking about, and like some of us to speak about the aspects of the game that they know most about, and to help to give a replacement to some of the forums such as MMO Champion and Arena Junkies, and foster some discussion on foster some good discussion on Reddit, which honestly lacks a little bit of at the moment, unfortunately. And that's not to say it's the fault of the subreddit itself, but the progress that we are going to take, hopefully first of all we'll foster some discussion and we'll take off, and that's one of our main goals, obviously, to create to make sure what we have created does satisfy the role of what we intended it to do. But in terms of that, I have great help from some of the best CSS and moderators that I've seen. Some of the best players that I've seen as well, who contribute themselves, and hopefully it just takes off, and we can provide an alternative source of information for everyone on Reddit. who is interested in competitive stuff.
And Lucosis, you're one of the mods on Competitive WoW, correct?
Yeah, that's right. I posted the class discussion posts and kind of try and moderate those and curate what posts get put in them.
Now, with the way that Reddit works, I mean, I remember seeing on one of the sticky threads for the subreddit that someone was concerned that the front page was just filled with all of these class threads. Do you think later that you will just be implementing like a sticky thread at the top that'll always guide people to these?
So the problem, I remember that post, and I think my answer then was that this is kind of like a pre-release or early access phase for the subreddit. Like, it's still pretty early in the days, and we're trying to get the backbones of the subreddit set up. So when we had the whole front page was 22 posts of Warlock discussion and Mage discussion, what we were really trying to do is get the pages set up in kind of like a wiki way so that we could link to those on the sidebar. So I think that a month or two down the road, after we have BlackRock out and the competitive players are trying to find more strategies and converse, we'll see a whole lot more posts from players trying to decide what to do instead of moderators trying to generate conversation.
Okay. Now, one of my concerns, because of the way that Reddit is structured itself, after a certain point, if those get so large, will you create another one? Because at a certain, if they start to hit, 3,000 comments, it's going to be really hard to sort through that. So are you going to create like a guide for what's inside of them, or will there be additional threads created?
So the current idea is that with every major content patch, so when 6.1 comes out, we'll generate a new class discussion post, and I'll go through the old posts and curate out the comments that I think are really helpful. Like in the Blood Knight or Death Knight thread, there's a fantastic guide on all things Blood Death Knight, and when we post the 6.1 discussion posts, I'll put a permalink to that comment so you can always go back and find it.
Okay.
So that way we kind of cut down on what will eventually become an unwieldy amount of comments, and instead just have almost like a guide of these are the things you need to read if you want to be a competitive Death Knight or Hunter.
Does Reddit have a retention schedule? Like after like a year, does a post get deleted?
As far as I've seen, I've been able to find posts from 5 or 6 years ago. So,
okay.
Or at least 2 or 3 years ago. Like, I don't know that that'll be an issue.
I think they get retired as in terms you can't comment maybe, but I think the threads are able to be extracted in any way. We'll try and obviously a year down the road is going to be a long time, but first of all we're going to try and make sure everything that is quality information that does need to get stuck around, such as the Death Knight post, does get stuck around. But I mean, we'll see how far we go down the road, and maybe sometimes the class changes so dramatically during different patches that we'll just stick to having just new content every time, new threads. But as you said, it might get a little bit clunky, which we do see as a problem. But what we'll have to do, we'll have to deal with it once it does become a problem. Because at the current stage, we have about we have about 2K subscribers. Even though it does seem like quite a lot, the content isn't being generated at the moment. We'll see what happens during patches. We'll see what happens during new seasons. We'll see what happens during new raids. Because, as you said, Lucosis, it's mostly about theory crafting. And once it has already been, discussed at great length, it can be lackluster. So when new content will come out, we'll have to deal with the thread. We'll have to be online as mods and try and moderate content much more strictly. As one thing, we had a quite funny story the other day of a guy posting not to forget to turn off battle pets when you enter arena, and we felt as a mod team that the actual post was quite ridiculous in terms of addressing a quite competitive scene, and not to forget to turn off your battle pets was a little bit too uncompetitive for our post, for our subreddit, but it's going to be about strict moderation, because the idea where I copied it from was Competitive HS, and massive shout out to those guys. Those are the those look at the competitive side of Hearthstone, a card game that is also made by Blizzard. And sometimes I do see some lackluster posts, and unfortunately the meta game always evolves there, so there's always new content. It doesn't matter if it's mid-season after patch notes, sorry. And it's a little bit different, and it does require some moderation. It does require that, unfortunately. But hopefully the subscribers that we do have at the moment will stick around, and hopefully they will be able to foster some good discussion and bring in some good friends that the subscribers can post to, and keep it going.
So for you two personally, what do you focus on in Warcraft? What do you play? What's your race? And what is the main thing that you entertain your time with in Warcraft?
I haven't really rated hardcore, I would say, since probably Wrath of the Lich King. I was doing, probably my big peak was when I was doing Algalon and Archimonde at content level. But since then, I've been a lot more of a casual, just kind of raiding with my friends and enjoying the time that way. So I focus on playing PvE and trying to be well aware of all of the classes and their balance issues and things like that. So that's kind of why I wanted to focus on the class discussions, because it kind of plays into my interest of knowing where all the other classes are at the time.
Okay.
So I had a similar thing, and also what I found about World of Warcraft and a lot of the team games. So the two main competitive areas, well, three really, is the Arena 3v3, where we have different comps. Obviously, we have different classes that dominate at the moment. Some say it's the Blood DKs, Ret Pallies, Resto Druids, I believe, are counted as top tier healers. But so there's that. There's the rated battlegrounds, which is the 10v10, and the mythic mode for raiding. So from the way I see it is that we're gonna have to how should I explain it? From what I see, we want to help raid leaders as well as the raiders, not only help them understand their class, but also help them understand the way different classes work, different niches of different classes, different roles as well, who can take the flamethrower the best, etc., who can utilize that. And it's the kind of thing I want to see as well, because there's a lot of great guys on MMO Champion, even for beginners, Icy Veins, Arena Junkies, etc. But the thing I want to focus on really is making sure that these comps come to life, and that, you know, we can help, maybe even in the future, and you know, this is the far distant future when the subreddit takes off, and this mainly for the US region. Hopefully we can start our own raiding team, which can be competitive and can be seen as, you know, top in the world, top 1% of the world. And that's hopefully where I want to take it personally.
In the long run, when everything's said and done, that's where you'd like to be sitting?
Yeah, I'd like to, you know, have a community where, you know, not only people know each other, but people have a great sort of deal of respect for each other as well, because I think that's really, really important.
And that's one of the things we talked about when we were talking about our verified poster flair, is that we kind of want the subreddit to be elitist in names but not attitude, and try and keep it as a civil place for discussion where people don't let their egos get out of check and kind of just
exactly.
behave friendly.
Toxicity is definitely not going to be part of our subreddit, and there's going to be strictly, and all sorts of elitism is going to be frowned upon.
Because it's meant to be a place of learning, not just degradation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So my question is that this is something that we had to look at as a podcast of, I mean, right now, you know, we're a very small podcast in terms of how many viewers we have and how large we are and what we're able to do and things like that, because there's already such large contenders out there with like the Instance and Convert to Raid. With the goal of competitive WoW, with the competition of what it is that your goal is, such as even things like Noxic or Wowhead or Methods raid videos or Fat Boss guides, what are you going to do that is really going to strive to define yourselves as something that is different, that could be something that people would want to come to when they could instead just go to these other sources?
I think one of the things that works to our advantage in that case is that it's on Reddit. And if you're a Redditor, you go to Reddit multiple times a day anyway. So we'll have the benefit of, if a post gets traffic on our subreddit, it'll be on everybody's front page. And if you're somebody that likes to play WoW, you're just going to enjoy seeing that post on your front page, and it'll make you think, okay, how can I answer this question?
Sure. And the thing that I love about Reddit, and that our WoW has been trying to encourage, is that it's a great place for discussion, which you don't really have any... This, I think, could be one of your guys' strongest points, of that it is a place to discuss and actually talk things on a more personal level. Fat Boss TV, method videos, all that, it's just a video. It's just a resource. Only thing you really get to do is watch it. There's comments, sure, but it's still not going to give you the level of what I think you guys can deliver to a community through the Reddit system.
And you also have to think about how the Reddit works. It works through upvotes and downvotes. So the better made content is obviously going to have a higher tier place in terms of, you know, what people enjoy, what people see as, you know, their guide. And, you know, the better posts will rise, and the better posts will see more, will have more attention than, you know, some crappy joke post that was made. And, you know, I feel that sometimes MMO Champion, Arena Junkie suffers from that because their comments are just sorted by date. And that's has a problem searching for all the correct information. And some of their the creators of their threads do a great job in terms of keeping up which content should be kept there, which content they want to edit into the, you know, main page, the first, second comment, they reserve them for that. And it's all great, but, you know, that's the great thing about Reddit, is it's in the end, it's user generated, and it's going to be user upvoted. People who find the information most useful will vote it to the top. And I think that's one of our greatest advantages in this field.
I've been asking questions of a storm. Evan, do you have anything that you would like to inquire on them?
No, I'm just I want to express I think that the subreddit's going well so far. All the discussions I've seen outside of the class posts. Oh, I mean, yeah, you posted the class posts themselves. But apart from that, there are new threads popping up with provocative questions, the kind of thing that you would see on our WoW, as in, like, somebody wants to know what's the best tank class, how is a specific spec doing, questions about pugging, Mythic Highmaul. You could find those sorts of threads on our WoW, but they're kind of condensed here by themselves. You don't have the screenshots in the middle. You don't have the jokes. You don't have the look what I saw in Northrend today. I mean, it's a little bit more of a pure community for that one type of discussion. Which
I think that post about pugging was actually incredible, because in a certain sense, pugging isn't sort of competitive, but there are players, and I can connect with them, who do not have enough time to commit to a guild, and, you know, pugging can be a very tough job. I had to do it when I signed up to an open raid event, and the leader didn't turn up, so I had to lead. I think it was normal SOO, and it was great. It was very demanding, because you had to know exactly what to do. First of all, you had to know what people do, and I think those resources are actually going to help people become better raid leaders as a whole, and that won't only improve the competitive side of the community, but also can help the community as a whole. And I think that was a fantastic post that wasn't quite within what I was thinking that would get posted, but it was indeed a very good post.
Yeah, I agree, and especially I pug people every week. I do see on the open raid and the raid finder people trying to pug Mythic Highmaul, and I think that's a huge undertaking. So it's good to see a little bit more of a professional opinion on that. What's possible with a pug, what isn't possible with a pug, that kind of thing.
I tried to pug heroic/mythic Siege of Orgrimmar, and that is a nightmare. It's just a higher difficulty level than I think a lot of people realize. I mean, they crash through, you know, the difficulty level below it, and they think that, oh man, I'm able to take this on real easy, especially even with pugs, but the level of forgiveness in things such as Mythic, or what used to be Heroic now is Mythic, it's just there's such a smaller window for error that I don't think people realize. And
usually Mythic kind of increases the individual responsibilities of each player. That's why I think a lot of people can't quite deal with it. For example, my favorite on Shout of Pride was the small void zones that you had to go over.
Right.
Every time your debuff run out, and that kind of put responsibility on everyone, not just, one guy can save this, one guy can save that. You had to constantly remind him there was the Iron Prisoners during Shamans. And I do agree, those are the things that can be pugged, especially due to the fact that it is hard content, especially if you're progressing it, and if you're pugging it, you have to have committed people, and that's what you usually get from guilds. So the best way, if people who are listening to this podcast, and if you are looking to lead a pug, first of all, go to our subreddit and read the post, and make sure you subscribe to the subreddit, obviously. And second of all, look for better places than I guess World of Warcraft, the raid finder, because I feel that's the easy way for most people to go. I feel like those are the kind of people. Maybe some of them will have the commitment and kind of the heart to go through all the content, but a lot of them won't. And I suggest making an open raid at a available time for you as well, and making sure you're going to be around. And I think open raid is a very good resource for finding those pugs for the higher content difficulty.
Do you think that competitive WoW will take a stance on anything like that, of being a place where you can try and assemble a more professional group together, such as the open raid system?
We do have plans for a weekly post of kind of a looking for group, looking for guild kind of a post where people can, instead of just discussing strategy, discuss, oh yeah, I would love to find a group that I can actually do this with. And I think with cross-realm raiding now, it'll be easier for people to make groups like that.
Okay. I also think we can use some Google Docs is a great software as well, which we can use, great website, I guess, which we can use to formally formulate this kind of pugs for people to do one. But I mean, this is the stuff that we're taking as progress. This kind of sub hasn't been quite done before, and we're not sure exactly how to approach it. And we are willing to take suggestions. The message the mods function is great for that. I think a lot of people do have some decent discussions, and we're working on. We'll have to work on content aesthetics and that kind of thing, and see what people want. But I do agree that we have to look to that in the future, and hopefully it will happen.
Okay. That's about all I had for questions. Evan, did you have anything else that you wanted to ask them?
No, I'm just looking forward to seeing how the thing progresses. Obviously, as you guys get more posts and you collect more information, more opinions, strategies, you'll eventually, I imagine, have to start organizing it. Are you thinking about doing any kind of wiki? You mentioned Google Docs.
Yeah, right now we have a Google Docs that we're just using between the moderators to kind of organize some information. And we have the wiki enabled on the subreddit, but we haven't really gone into formatting it too much yet. And I think that may be one of our next steps, especially after we get a cross post on the WoW subreddit that we've opened our doors officially, so that we can start kind of organizing our information more directly.
And also, I think the wiki is kind of replaced by the sidebar at the moment, which has a lot of the source information for class guides and things. But I think a wiki will do very well. There's also a subreddit that's called WoW Noob, as believed for newer players. So I think in collaboration with the two, I think we can get a lot of information for players across all the ranges, and the wiki will help us do that definitely in the long run.
Well, yeah, it's going to be a tough balance, I imagine, with so many class changes, and Blizzard seems to be introducing hot fixes and little tuning adjustments every week or every couple of days. This past week, they've done quite a few. So staying on top of everything is going to be more than a two-man job.
But that's the beauty of hotfixes, that actually they help us generate content, because they are so quick, and they're pretty much weekly. So we do have kind of organized posts. There was the hot fixes from 5th to 7th of January that changed some of the classes a lot, especially my class. The Windwalker, which was very, very frustrating for me. But yeah, it does help us generate content. At the moment, the traffic is low, but we are hoping to get higher, and I wanted to get hectic because it will be exactly what it needs to be. It will be a source of information for those who want to improve their gameplay, who want to improve their raids, etc., etc.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, I know that it is getting extremely early for Dan, who is quite far away from the rest of us. Can we ever expect to see you back on the Castbar, Dan?
Man, anytime. I greatly enjoyed it, but I'm gonna have to go. For those who don't know, it's 1:20 in the morning for me, so I'm gonna have to go see the mistress, as they say, and hopefully she's not gonna be too pissed at me. But anyway, thank you guys for having me on the subreddit. I hope you enjoy the rest of it. I'll definitely listen in on the iTunes, and thank you very much.
And Dan, is there any way that you would like to tell people if they would like to contact you directly? We have our own Twitter accounts and stuff like that, or they can email us. Is there anything like that you would like to announce to people for a way for them to contact you if they have any questions or anything along those lines?
I mean, the best way to contact me is going to be on the subreddit itself, and it will say who it's created by, so you can get the user from there. My username on subreddit is xnykx, and the subreddit itself is CompetitveWoW, our CompetitveWoW. So that's the best place to reach me. Unfortunately, I don't have any social networks at the moment, and I'm open to questions about the subreddit. I'm open to questions about if anybody does play on Doomhammer EU, represent. Feel free to get in contact with me. Feel free to ask any questions, and that's about all. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Well, enjoy your sleep. Lucosis, are you checking out as well, or are you going to hang out with us for a little bit more?
No, I can hang out. I'm just running through Ice Ground right now. So
wonderful.
All right, guys, have a good day.
Thank you so much for coming, Dan. Take it easy.
Have a good one, Dan.
Normally at this point is when we'd go into the mailbag. I'm not going to play the bumper for the mailbag because that's just going to eat up unnecessary time because we have no questions. If you would like to email us or send us any questions at all, please email us at thecastbar@gmail.com. You can also send us a tweet. If it's a quick question, we can just answer it on the Twitter. Otherwise, we can bring it onto the show, and that is at Castbar Podcast. You can call and leave us a voicemail at 508-738-2278. Any and all questions are welcome. Just send them in. We'll be happy to take a look at them. If it's something that is really pretty much anything, as long as it's appropriate, we'll bring it onto the show. But we don't have anything for the mailbag, so we're going to go into our final section, which is the review. Welcome to the review section. We will review whatever it is that we choose to that is within the community in the World of Warcraft, whether that is a class, a 5-man dungeon, a battleground, a quest line, whatever it's going to be. We're trying to switch it up and go with a little bit more interesting options to really kind of test ourselves and what we are able to do. And this week we are going to go with the first step of the legendary quest line for the legendary ring that is in Warlords of Draenor. They're doing a lot with this legendary quest line like they were in Miss Pandaria, where with each patch you get access to a little bit more of it. So we're going to go all the way up, if you are aware of the legendary quest line, to the Abrogator Stones quest line, because after that we go into quest lines that require us to have access to Blackrock Foundry, which will not be coming until patch 6.1. So we split the review section up into 3 sections, that is ambience, gameplay, and lore. Ambience obviously being basically anything that appeals to your senses. So, what you see, what you hear, that's pretty much all you can really get through a video game. Obviously we can't taste or smell anything. That's unfortunate. We'll probably get there at some point in this wonderful world of technology. Gameplay is obviously the numbers, the quests themselves, what you have to go through, encounters, everything like that. And then lore is, well, the story. Is there anything there for it? We always do ambience first. And Evan, what is your first just small comment for the ambience of this legendary questline that we've experienced so far?
Well, I think the ambience is most encapsulated by the little mini Zenger Marsh where Khadgar set up shop. It's the only kind of reason you go over there is to start the legendary questline. You always return when you're turning into various parts. And I think it's worth mentioning that the scene that he set with his little tower there is pretty remarkable in that it's completely different from everywhere else on Draenor right now.
I actually, the thing that made me laugh the most when I first got over to his tower is that there's two mages that are locked in an infinite battle between frost and fire that are fighting over like an itty bitty little pool of water, and they constantly make comments about which is better, and it never changes. They're just permanently scripted to be that way, but it was entertaining from my end. But the ambience just going into the start, it always seems so awkward when these start out because, like, you just get, like, handed a letter or get, like, a call in your brain to come talk to somebody, and it just seems like there should be a better introduction to these. Have you proceeded all the way to your Abrogator Stones, Evan and Lucosis?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, I have to. About halfway through right now.
Congratulations to you. So, the way that the questline works real quick is that you go talk to Khadgar, and he says that Gul'dan... We'll explain the lore a little bit stronger in the lore section. He explains that Gul'dan is the real threat, that Grommash is just the distraction, and then he sends you off into a whole bunch of heroic dungeons, and then after you do the heroic dungeons, you have to go find Kairos, which is the gold dragon, and then after that, you have to start getting Abrogator Stones. So those are pretty much the steps through the first phase. So the ambience is really wrapped up in everything. All the dungeons have their own ambience. So we'll take a look primarily at Khadgar's tower area, as well as ambience, as well as the Kairos encounter. My brain just stopped again. You gotta love how it does that. The ambience for me, like, these quest lines, because they're supposed to be so friendly, I feel like they're very lacking in the ambience because they have to be very accessible. So, like, Khadgar's speeches are always good because whoever the voice actor is for Khadgar is fantastic, by the way. And I haven't completed all of the Nagrand questing zones, but is the zone that you do the Kairos encounter in, is that unique only to that encounter, or do you have any other reason to go there?
I'm not positive. I think you follow Chromie from outside of from Wargul, in my case, being Horde, which is my garrison outpost in Nagrand, and follow up some hills and go into this area. I wasn't really paying attention, but I don't think that I had visited that area on any other prior quest now.
Okay. Because it's this beautiful, like, heavily wooded area with a whole bunch of time-lost ogres in there, which are, well, ogres that are suspended in time, and they're all ethereal and yellow and glowy and stuff. And the whole quest line at this point so far has felt very weak on the ambient side of things because a whole lot hasn't been presented to me, especially because with things like this, like trying to get the core of life and the core of iron, you don't really see what those are. They're just item number 1 that goes into your bag.
Right. Yeah, I can kind of understand the core of life being some kind of super condensed essence of life, and fire being the same thing, but iron seems like just a big chunk of metal. How does that help? I don't understand.
It's Khadgar. He needed exactly 4,876 Apexis crystals. He knows what he needs. Don't question him. He's a wizard.
Yeah, I think as far as the ambience goes with the quest text, it's not like a lore thing. It's more of an ambience because it's how it makes you feel. I think them kind of, I don't know, it's almost like they're a little bit sarcastic with this kind of Not yeah, it's hard to explain. Khadgar is treating you like you're playing a game. He's not treating you like a hero character that has like limitations. He's really, I don't know. Whereas everybody else in the World of Warcraft, when they give you a quest, they're saying, "Oh wow, I can't believe you're so strong," or this and that. Khadgar is saying like, "This is exactly what I expect from you. You're gonna have to go and kill these raid bosses. I don't want to hear any complaining." It seems like it's like breaking the kind of suspension of disbelief a little bit. It's being a little bit too realistic, or not too realistic, but just more realistic than some of the other quest lines are. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand perfectly what you're saying. It's a complaint I've had in the past. It's a complaint that a lot of people had in Cataclysm with Thrall, in that we always feel like we're the just the help, really. We're never showcased as the real star. I mean, Thrall was always, up in the face, and he's, the one that got to shoot Deathwing and all of this kind of different stuff, right. Whereas we just, did what really, in essence, is like the grunt work. I mean, and the whole build-up in Warlord so far has been, you're this awesome hero that's, done so much for us, and you're a commander, and now you're a general, and thanks, you're doing good. And Khadgar goes, you are pretty worthless, actually, at least compared to people like me and Gul'dan. I'm going to have to make you something to make you, at least somewhat relevant compared to us. Because, I mean, that I immediately felt completely overshadowed by Khadgar as soon as we stepped through the portal, because he's just running around and casting 10 arcane blasts at a time and destroying a bridge and freezing an army and bringing down the walls, and it's like, man, you make me seem unimportant. He's like, no, you're important, I swear.
Yeah, really.
I need you.
Condescending. Yeah.
And it's like, what do you mean you need me? You just blew all of them up. I know, but if you didn't kill those 5 over there, I couldn't have focused on killing the 500 over here.
Yeah, we'll see how it develops towards the end of it, but it does seem like it's just a little funny how Blizzard's kind of taking some of the old questing tropes and having some fun with them. It kind of reminds me of the Arathi Highlands quest as Horde, where you take the role of a quest giver. I don't know if the Alliance gets to do that as well. I don't think so.
I don't recall it. So, Lucosis, though, what's your opinion on Ambience? What was your feelings towards this so far? Is he there? Lucosis?
Am I still there?
Yeah. Okay. Hello.
Okay. I think I had my headset muted.
Okay.
I've absolutely loved Khadgar. I've been reading through the Jim Butcher Dresden Files books recently, and the main character in that is kind of that dry, sarcastic kind of wit that Khadgar has been doing. So, kind of the combination of reading those books and Khadgar just being hilarious has made the quest fantastic for me.
So, I understand. I enjoy Khadgar's character. I just don't enjoy how he... I mean, because as a video game, this, and especially with the way that Warcraft has been focused, it's about us, really, and what we're, overtaking. I mean, we've brought down pushed old gods back into their holes and closed the door and took down the Lich King and destroyed Deathwing, and then we still have these people like Khadgar that just really make me feel like my accomplishments don't mean much, because he's apparently able to blow up a planet.
Yeah, and that's just kind of been their problem all along, that I feel like Blizzard doesn't fully know how to tell the story where we have enough agency, where we can be the ones to change the world, even though we've done it in raids before that weren't as focused on the story.
Mm-hmm. And so maybe this is like a technology window, because, I mean, especially because, wizards often feel the most powerful in things. I mean, there can be this awesome warrior, but he never does something as flashy as, blow up a bridge or a dam or anything like that. That's the magical, fantastical side of things. So, I mean, I guess it would be hard to showcase, whereas, my shaman, they could make her do the casting animation and blow up the bridge, though. But, my paladin, it would be much more difficult. What are they going to do? Take a hammer to it?
Well, and then there's the question of, why can I do this during a story moment, but I can't do it in the real game? Come on.
Okay. Points are good. Your point is valid.
Oh no, I wish that I was as overpowered as Khadgar was. That would be fantastic. But I don't know if Blizzard would be okay with that.
Right. And it seems kind of strange to me, like exactly what Michael was kind of getting at during the Dragon Soul encounter, and Thrall is pretty much the one doing all the good, powerful stuff, killing Deathwing mostly. If the player base feels this way about it, how they don't like being kind of outshined, why would they do the same thing so dramatically right now? And I'm thinking that the direction they're going with Khadgar is going to be something of a, yeah, I'm helping you out right now, but secretly by the end of the expansion, he's really going to need our help, like he's going to be in some serious trouble, or they might off him entirely and we'll have to finish up ourselves. I think they're building him up right now, but I don't think they intend for him to stay as in this kind of power dynamic with us, you know.
And I think they've said, this may be more lore focused than ambiance, but I think they've said Ner'zhul isn't dead yet. So I'm really interested to see if there's some Lich King connection that comes in since Ner'zhul is still alive. Maybe Khadgar gets corrupted.
The only reason I disagree with that is that for completing the legendary questline, you get the achievement Time is a Flat Circle, and that gives you the monument in your garrison, which has Gul'dan at the top with double green fireballs and Khadgar below him with a giant orange one. So this, in the end, is still going to come down to Khadgar versus Gul'dan. If Khadgar loses, that's one thing. But in the end, it's still going to be that it's him going up first.
Yeah, interesting.
I mean, if not, then this monument that I'm looking at right now completely confuses me. So, Evan, ambience grade.
I'm going to give it a B. Room for improvement. I'm going to see where it heads, but it has not been a disappointment yet.
Okay, and I'm going to keep the final grades for each phase separately, and then at the end, when we get to the end of this legendary quest line, however many months in the future that is, we'll actually have a final grade for the quest line as a whole. Leucosis, do you have we do letter grades. Pluses and minuses are perfectly fine. Do you have a grade for ambience at this point?
I would lean towards B+, just because I've loved Khadgar so far, and his Zengor Marsh Tower is fantastic.
And I will give it a solid B as well. There's some things that I think could be improved, like Evan said, but I think most of these is purely just because it's a video game. There is limitations, especially with how old Warcraft is. It's going to create a very large limitations for things. Just for them to present things as much as we would like them to be. Because there's just a lot of work involved for every little thing that goes into this game, especially with this polish that they're trying to make things now. Let's go into the gameplay, though. So, my first take on gameplay has been... looking back on it now, I realize that almost all legendary questlines have been grindy to some point of just collect X number of special things from bosses number 9 through 12. That being said, though, the things that haven't been just collect, X, Y, or Z have been very interesting. Like the Kairos encounter was really good, and at least for me as a Shadow Priest, it was pretty difficult. Because I have to stand still so much, and they want you to bounce the time bombs up and run around and then hide from Kairos's big explosion, which I don't know if I did right. I just jumped behind a tree that was like way far away from the encounter. But it's been fairly good so far, and then of course we go into like the Abrogator Stones, which is just keep killing Heim all bosses, please. That being said, though, we were going to do a closer look at legendary quest lines in general later, but we might just X-nay that in favor of taking it into these. I thought Blizzard said they were going to make the legendary quest line less grindy. And here I am seeing 125 Abrogator Stones, which I realize you can get up to 5 from one boss. But I also am aware of, and this is technically the next phase, that you need 900 Elemental Runes for the next one. And that just... I know you can get them from work orders and stuff like that, but still, like, that's just so many. It just seems so huge.
Yeah, right. I'm really frustrated that they just keep relying on just go ahead and grind for a few weeks so that we can say this was a time commitment. Because that method of design just really frustrates me in the end. because it completely kills it for alts. Like right now I'm playing 2 characters and getting abrogator stones for both of them just seems like a nightmare already.
Well, and like there was such a huge complaint over like the Valor grind. It's like no matter what, this takes 3 weeks to complete, and it's like no matter what, 125 abrogator stones is going to take you like 10 weeks to complete.
And then you have to contend with the RNG on that because not every boss drops the same number every time, and that not my favorite thing to do.
Well, and also, like, you can only get them once per week. I mean, this was still in Miss Pandaria. It didn't matter what difficulty you did them on, you only got them from one boss drop. So, I mean, there is no difference between doing them in LFR and Mythic. You'll still get a random number between 1 and 5 from each boss. Are they even guaranteed to give you one?
I do believe so.
Okay, so no matter what, you'll at least get one. But I mean, if you're, like right now in High Mall, there's 7 bosses total. So I mean, if you're incredibly unlucky, this could take upwards of like 4 months.
Right, well, I mean, so here's my take on the whole thing. When we had the Miss Pandaria questline, we had to get like the 10 sigils of wisdom, 10 sigils of power, and then 12 Titan runestones, and those were a drop or not. We had the 2 bosses that guaranteed to drop the Titan runestone, but
don't forget
honestly,
the
secrets of Warhammer 2, yeah. And it's when you have such a small number of like items you need to complete the quest, then they can be really frustrating because you're down to the random number generator and you can run an entire section without getting anything off of any of the bosses except for the guaranteed one. And it reminds me of Classic WoW. Now, Lukosis, I don't know if you played in Classic WoW, but one of the elemental crafting materials that we have every expansion was the essence of water, or the essence of life, or living essence rather. And these were super rare drops. In order to create an epic piece of gear or something, maybe you needed 20 essences of fire, and it would take a long time if you're grinding these on their own because, like these Titan runestones, the mob either drops it or it doesn't. And in order to make it worthwhile or predictable how long it would take to drop them all, you just had to grind them. But what I'm getting at is, when they introduced the moats in the Burning Crusade, and then the little broken crystallized air, and this in the Wrath of the Lich King, is that they've made it so that you can collect more often these small pieces and then assemble them into the big pieces. So it's, if you grind for 20 minutes and you only get 1 essence of water, well, in the Burning Crusade, maybe you got 16 motes of water, which is like 1.6 essences. So you make progress at the same rate or so, but it's more noticeable. So compared to the legendary questline, in Miss Pandaria, we had the 12 Titan runestones, for example. You either got them or you didn't. It could feel like an interminable grind. But with the abrogator stones, since we're going for 10 times as many, we're going for 120 or 125 of them, you can make progress more noticeably. You're not coming out of a raid empty-handed. You're getting a small piece of the way. And even though the progress might be just the same, you're not walking away empty-handed, which I think is better for player morale while collecting these quest items. And then again, with the core of elements or the element runes or whatever, getting 900 of them, if they have such a ludicrously high number that you need total, then that means they can drop a whole lot more for the bosses. They can introduce other ways of getting them, like maybe they drop out of gathering nodes, but
they drop out of work orders.
Work orders? Okay. Well, the same thing with the abrogator stones. I mean, they give more opportunities for you to make small bits of progress so that you never feel like you're stagnating or stalling out.
I would just rather there was less of a grind element to these quests and more of a gameplay element.
Right.
Is like most of my problem with the system.
I don't see people are going to be doing raids anyway if they want to get gear, right? So why not just have it along the lines of you just need to defeat, heroic Margok. Well, I guess that kind of takes away, because these are the complaint on the legendaries, especially like the cloak and now the ring, is that they're gimme legendaries. They're easy for anyone to get. You can get these through LFR, but the thing is that the largest complaint from the Miss Pandaria questline was the grind, of that you had to grind all the time to have any chance at getting these, and I don't feel like these are any different in any way
So I guess the alternative would be just to say, here's your level 680 ring. You do your heroic dungeons, and you get your level 680 ring, and then in order to complete the next set of the quests, you just have to wait for Blackrock Foundry to come out. I mean, we're just going to gate you. You can't get it now, but when Blackrock Foundry's out, then you can start the next piece of the quest and kill the raid boss and get your level 710 ring or something like that. It would still be time gated in that we can't do it now. We have to wait, but we wouldn't be limited by how fast we're grinding the raid bosses, for example. It wouldn't be a grind. And then when you went with an alt, after 6.2 or whatever, you could do all of those quests just right in a row and then get your 710 ring the moment you hit 100 if you want, you know?
Is that bad?
What would the consequences of it be, though, I'm asking?
I mean, I would much rather that system than be forced to grind through an entire patch for something that you're not really going to get until the next patch anyway. But it also, I mean, I understand where they're coming from, that if you have something that you're actively grinding towards, then you're still paying a subscription, which is what a lot of it comes down to in their meetings, I'm sure.
Sure. Just don't like it. Another section of another little piece of gameplay we're going to look at is the ring itself. We only get to see two pieces of it so far, and that's the 640 and the 680 tiers. The 680 is fairly easy to get, as you don't have to get your 125 Abrogator Stones. You only have to do the heroic dungeons and the Kairos encounter. I didn't play through Pandaria up until 5.4, so I don't know how the pieces that you got through that legendary questline felt, but I feel a little underwhelmed at my 680 ring at this point. I realize it'll probably be really awesome once it does become all, orange and yellowy and pretty and stuff like that. But I mean, compared to the stuff that we were seeing in the Pandaria questline, like the Shaw touched thing and the legendary meta gem and all that kind of stuff, so far I am rather underwhelmed with just what the ring is at its current state.
Well, I think also you can get the 690 ring this patch, I think, and it has a legendary proc on it.
It does?
Well, not legendary proc, but it has a proc.
Really?
Right, you can finish these the Abrogator Stone and the Imperator quests.
Huh.
Yeah, it gives your attacks have a chance to grant Archmage's Incandescence for 10 seconds. Now, I don't know what that is for each class, but it is something different at least.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that. I haven't got through my Abrogator Stones yet. I didn't know that the next tier was already available. That's at least something, but I mean, depending on what Archmage Incandescence is, that might be more or less still quite underwhelming.
I think it looks like it's just a 10% buff to your primary stat, so it's not anything big and showy.
It's relevant, at least. Does it have a visual proc, or is it just a proc?
That I haven't seen. I don't know that I've seen anybody using it yet.
I know that there's a few individuals that have already completed their Abrogator Stones. They gotten lucky on drops and also got into their Abrogator Stones within the first week or so of the expansion. Do you guys think that we will see anything besides the ring come through this questline?
That's a good point. I'm going to say yeah. I think there'll be something else, because Miss Pandaria, like you said, had so many different kind of benefits and stat gems and all this. It would seem a little bit flat if we only had the one upgrade the entire time.
Okay.
And they have confirmed that we'll get a legendary follower in the next patch, and I think they might do more tertiary things as additions instead of something like a gem last expansion.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe a Archmage vanity pet of some kind, like his elemental, and then whatever follower we end up getting.
Okay. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Gameplay grade, though, Lucosis.
I really enjoyed the fight against Kairaz's ghost. Spoilers, by the way. So I'm probably going to give it a C, mostly with the grind dragging it down to a lower grade.
Evan?
Well, this grade will probably change the first time I try it on an alt, but grind hasn't been too bad for me so far. I think it's going at a pretty steady pace, so I would say B, because I also did really enjoy the little scenario that you had to do.
My grade is going to be fairly low because this is not something that I can see myself doing on an alt period unless I end up changing the character that I'm rating on. And I am going to factor that into my grade right now. And the only part so far that has actually felt gameplay for the quest line itself at all has been the Kairos encounter. And it was very good, but it was very, very short and sweet, and there hasn't been really anything else involved in it. So I'm going to give it I want to give it a D, but I'm going to be a little bit more generous. I'm going to give it a C-. So far, I have not been impressed with anything in the legendary quest line whatsoever. And, like, going through Rathian's quest line so far has been much more appealing to me on many levels, even if it was more grindy compared to what we currently have to the Khadgar questline. Now let's move into lore. If you're not a lore buff, I am sorry, but this is part of something that encompasses everything that we have inside Warcraft, so we do include it with our review sections. Lucosis, would you like to take the first steps in the lore for us?
I might be one of the few people that really enjoy the lore of this expansion. I think that there's a lot of ways they can take it at the end of the expansion. And so far, like, I've enjoyed interacting with Khadgar and a lot of the... Definitely people like Durotar, but they aren't really part of the legendary questline. Lore-wise, though, I feel like this is just the start. So, of course, they've got to do a little bit of exposition, and it'll probably strengthen up the patches to come.
Well, and I feel like the lore of this expansion is really being defined by this quest line and what we're actually going to see towards the end of things. I mean, because Khadgar is so not concerned with Grommash. I mean, he is like, yeah, he's a bad guy, but he's really not what we need to be concerned about in any way. Because with what we know, I mean, the Burning Legion is already on its way. Some of it's already here. I mean, it's already setting up shop in a couple different places, like in Shadowmoon Valley. In Khadgar is much more strongly directed towards stopping Gul'dan. I mean, that is his goal because he sees that as the primary threat, which kind of coincides with what Rathian was talking about, and that the Burning Legion is the ultimate threat to Azeroth, and we're seeing that start to come to fruition in the threat that the Burning Legion is posing to us on Draenor. Thoughts?
Yeah, I like the development of the expansion lore in general, not just as it pertains to the legendary quest line, but especially the relative visibility of Gul'dan and Grommash. I think they've been popping up here and there, especially in seen them more in Shadowmoon Valley, popping up with Nerzul's quest chain. Did we talk about that last week?
Yes.
And other than that, they're kind of just like this shadowy figure. I mean, we see him standing on the cliff during the introductory cinematic when you're going for the boats and all that after you destroy the Dark Portal. Spoilers.
Spoilers are really effective when they come after.
It's the best time to announce them.
By the way, I just spoiled that for you.
If they're listening to this podcast, I hope they've gotten through the introductory quests for the expansion.
You would think so, yeah.
I would hope so.
But no, it's they're really kind of mysterious at this point. So we've dropped in on Gul'dan with the Shadow Council, and we've seen his lieutenants more than he himself, and I think that's pretty cool. And the interaction with Khadgar and Gul'dan when he's trying to scry on him, using the blood of Tarangor. I think it's a pretty cool development they're doing. They're slowly trying to build up the suspense, and then I think there will be some cool revelations, and then the same with Grommash, rather. We're going to start seeing a little bit more of his influence kind of pulling the strings behind everything that's going on, and then we're going to slowly get a few more glimpses of him, and then eventually at the culmination or the apex of the expansion, it's going to be really in our face, both of them, or we're going to have to go toe to toe with these guys. But I like the slow kind of relish.
So, with this, I mean, the lore of the expansion as a whole is really starting to point towards that you can't get away from time, really. That, well, essentially what the legendary questline is, its achievement is time is a flat circle. So basically, what this, even the questline is starting to point towards, is that everything that has changed in this timeline will still come to pass, just in a different fashion. So Grom's still going to be affected by the Burning Legion. Even though they said Grom is the final boss, they've also said that there's going to be another boss after him, which, okay. I imagine that'll be something along the lines of possibly like the Rodden fight in Throne of Thunder, where on the highest difficulty there's a bonus fight afterwards, or Sinestra in Bastard of Twilight, maybe. But so basically what I think we're going to see is that the Burning Legion is just going to take over everything like they did the last time. It's just going to take a little bit longer because of the circumstances. But, that being said, the lore that we currently have available to us is very interesting with what we saw in primarily the Kairos encounter. Because unfortunately, we don't get to see much of what Khadgar is doing, like when he's trying to scry Gul'dan. All we know is that Gul'dan's power was powerful enough to keep him from being able to be scryed upon. But what we see, spoilers, is that Garrosh kills Kairos as soon as they get here, because Kairos was actually working on his own agenda and trying to create an army to do something with. To just be evil with.
Yeah.
And that's one of the parts that I'm really excited to see where this expansion goes, is that Rathian and Kairos, they all had a reason to bring Garrosh back, and all we know is that they wanted to make an army. So I'm really curious to see if maybe Rathian knows the Burning Crusade is about to come hit Azeroth A, or, I mean,
Well,
it's really just, there's anything that could happen.
And that's the other big question is, what is Rathian doing? Because he gave himself such a huge base for what he was planning on doing in the Miss Pandaria questline, because he really defined what his goals were and what he was going to do, and that somehow this was all, with bringing Garrosh back and all that, was derived towards that. But so far we haven't seen anything from him.
Yeah, and I hope that he comes into play in the next wing of the legendary questline, and I hope they don't wait until way later in the expansion to see that.
Right. I mean, if you consider how, like, going back to visibility with Grommash and Gul'dan, they've been pretty visible compared to Rathian, who's been almost non-existent.
Have we seen him at all?
In Admiral Taylor's garrison, there's a book item that you can get that's a
Right.
journal that describes how Rathian was captured, or, you know, it's very dubious as to what he was doing and what his intentions were, but
He was there.
Definitely spinning some intrigue. And given that he's even less relatively visible than the other two main characters, I wonder if that's gonna correlate to a bigger revelation or epiphany or confrontation in the future. But the last thing I wanted to bring up was that when you're referencing time as a flat circle, married to the phrase kind of everything that time before will happen again, am I getting that right? It's kind of presuming that the events that we are disrupting by altering the timeline are still going to come to pass.
Right.
So, being the wielder of Aetish, would that imply that Khadgar might succumb to some Burning Legion influence?
Sargeras?
A la Medivh?
Maybe. That's quite possible. We also haven't seen anything of Universe B's Medivh. I mean, because technically he should be involved in this somehow. I mean, but at the same time, maybe not. I mean, Blizzard has basically said that they're going to make this up how they want to. Because they just said that they wanted to do it this way, and this was the easiest way to go about doing that, so that's what they did. What that means for keeping, if they really are going for this time as a flat circle, and that, you can't change the past, it's doomed to be repeated, or however you want to go about it, then, I mean, they do still have a couple hurdles to jump around, but we'll have to just wait and see how they go about doing that.
There's also the possibility that that achievement is just Blizzard being the pop culture entity that it is and referencing to True Detective.
Right.
Because that was a pretty central theme in the last half of True Detective, was the quote of time is a flat circle.
Most of those references, though, large or small, they are still connected to things. Like, they don't just reference them. I mean, they have some sort of direct correlation to whatever it is that they are associated with. So, I mean, and this is the legendary quest line. I don't imagine that they would just do a fun little small reference like that for what is going to be a very large part of the expansion. Especially with, I mean, a lot of the quest lines and achievements and stuff like that, you do something that is similar to whatever it is that they are referencing towards.
Oh yeah, I totally, I don't think that's the case, but I'm going to reserve my I told you so just in case.
Fair enough, you can reserve that. So I will give my lore grade. Obviously, it's really hard to give this a full grade until we have the full story, because there is just so many just loose ends that I imagine will be wrapped up, and I'm not going to allow those to affect my grade in any way. So I'm going to give the lore at this point as a whole an A, because it has been very good, and I think it's just going to keep getting better, because it's keeping me interested, it's keeping me asking questions, which is something that Miss Pandaria was very bad at doing. Because we were just presented with so many different bad guys all the time, and a lot of them didn't make sense, or they were just a whole bunch of different separate stories that had some sort of connection to the whole story, but they just didn't feel relevant enough. Whereas at this point, everything has been very, very skillfully interweaved. Lucosis, lore grade.
For the expansion itself, not just specifically the Legendary Quest, I would say A, because I love it. But so far for the Legendary Quest, I'm leaning towards a high C, maybe.
Okay.
Mostly because of those tight or loose ends, and I feel like they just gave too many loose ends too fast.
I guess that is... hopefully a lot of those will really start to gain direction with this first patch. I mean, because we don't get much of the guidance of what we believe is really truly going on in these introductory quests. I think a ton of that will really be given a lot more definition, character, and direction with 6.1 that's coming up in the near future. Evan, lore grade.
I'm the same page as you, Michael. I think I like everything I've seen so far. I like the pace of the storytelling, and they haven't done anything to really disappoint me yet, so I'll give it an A.
All right, and that brings the lore grade to a B, which brings our final grade for the current step 1 of the expansion to about a B-. Incidentally, this is something that most of you, probably whether you really like it or not, are going to end up doing. This is just our opinion on it at this point. I hope you enjoyed it. And I really hope that we can see that this is just a piece of it, and that there is going to be so much more that comes across as more patches comes out, and, we are able to progress through the grind of 125 Abrogator Stones and 900 Elemental Runes and, 3,000 Orc Toenails, or whatever it might be that comes up next. So just try not to roll your eyes too much to the Legendary Quest line. They are still trying, but give them time. I mean, our memories from the Miss Pandaria quest line, we have the memory of having the full quest line. I mean, we have the memory of it from beginning to end right now, whereas this would probably be a very similar grade of if we had, reviewed part of the Legendary quest line in the middle of it back in Miss Pandaria. So we will see where this goes. However, this does bring us to the end of the show. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Again, you can contact the show at thecastbar@gmail.com or send us a tweet at castbarpodcast. You can leave us a voicemail at 508-738-2278. I'm still waiting for a voicemail from somebody so I can test it on the show. I got to make sure that that works correctly, but I don't want to call the show myself. The music for our bumpers is done by Kevin MacLeod. You can find all of his work at incomtech.com. You can buy his music. There's a lot of it that's royalty free, which is licensed under the Creative Commons license. Go and check his stuff out. We just use a very small amount of his available library. All of his stuff is very good, and there's a ton of it from a whole bunch of different genres. Highly recommend going and checking that out. Again, part of this this entire show we've had Lucosis, and for a large portion of it we had Dan with us, which are the creator and moderator of a new subreddit, which I advise you all to go to. It is r/CompetitveWoW. They are focused on helping you learn to be a little bit better in this World of Warcraft, whether it's raiding or PvP or whatever it is that you might be looking towards. Go there, take a look. If there's something you don't see, you can always request it. Obviously, keep it within the spirit of what the subreddit is. Don't ask them how to be competitive in your transmog, because I don't even know what that means. You can find me. You can address an email to my attention at thecastbar@gmail.com. I also have my own personal Twitter, which is @SchwanMichael. Evan, where are people able to get a hold of you at?
Through the Castbar Gmail account or at EDCWoW on Twitter.
And Lucosis, do you have anything that you would like to announce to people if they would like to discuss anything with you, or just talk to you in general?
Well, first, just thanks for having us. It's been a lot of fun. Hopefully, we can generate some. Oh, I just completely lost the word. It's contagious.
Traffic?
Yes, that's the word.
Okay.
Hopefully, we can get some traffic in the subreddit and get some more discussion going. If anybody does want to contact me or any of the moderators, you can send us a personal message or a mod mail. And I'm also on Twitter at lpollet. So feel free to follow me there.
How do you spell Pollet, if you don't mind my asking?
Pollet.
Okay.
That's a good question.
And Florian couldn't be with us today. He was sick. Hopefully he will be feeling better and up and ready to go next week. His Twitter is @Phalanx, which is FALANGX. And you can also send an email to his attention here at the Castbar. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you, Lucosis. Dan, if you listen to the rest of the show, thank you for being here. I really appreciated it, especially because I know it was way, way late in your day. We even started at noon my time, which was midnight his time, because the world's crazy. And I really appreciate both of you guys being here. Evan, as always, great show. Thank you for being here. And look forward to many, many weeks ahead of Warcraft. Have a good night.
See you. Enjoy.
See you guys.
You are out of time.